Hello and welcome MomoCon online to this whole virtual convention experience. I hope you're going to enjoy yourself this weekend. And we're here to talk about some Final Fantasy XIV, so let's get started.
How many years have come and gone since that day? How many years have I waited for this moment? For the one that stood alone against the storm. For the one they called the Warrior of Light. What sayest thou, Master Matoya? We may accept this fate, or defy it, but we cannot deny it.
Deny? I am not wont to run from my troubles. Until our friend returns, I will hold the line.
This town certainly has changed, and not at all for the better. I'm not going anywhere. I promise you, Minfilia.
tragedy, greater even than the seventh umbral calamity, must be undone. If history must be unwritten, let it be unwritten. Become what you must. Become the warrior of darkness.
Surprise! That expansion's out right now. It came out last year. So this is Final Fantasy XIV panel, What You Must. Hi, I'm Basil. I'm part of the Awesome Cast, your podcast for everything awesome. You can also find me on Twitter at It's Basil Time. I also help host the Carbuncle Chronicle, your podcast for everything awesome in Final Fantasy XIV, which you can also find at awesomecast.com. Also, just a heads up, this is my cat, Carbuncle. She may or may not be heard in this panel because I'm recording at home alone. And, well, who am I to tell my cat that she can't be in this panel? I'm also part of Odin Spear, a free company on Leviathan. So, Shadowbringers came out in July 2nd, 2019. And we're well into it. It's super fun. Why, just ask our good friends who really wanted to be the Warrior of Darkness, Tom Holland and his buddy, Hannibal Buress.
Hey, Tom, we playing Final Fantasy XIV?
No, I'm not ready yet. I gotta get prepared.
You don't need to train, just play the game. Why are you doing this?
For Shadowbringers, dude. I'm training to be the Warrior of Darkness. I must become the darkness.
You must become a better roommate. Hey, you don't need that sword, man. You're not the Warrior of Darkness.
Yes, I am. Look at my sword.
You're from West London. That's the really nice part of London. Relax, man. You all right?
Yeah, well, you know, not gonna be the Warrior of Darkness, so.
It's not about trying to be the ultimate Final Fantasy master. It's what's in here that matters. And what's in there is a gamer. You can do this. You got this.
You think so?
It's video games, yeah.
I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, it's just buttons.
Let's just go and play.
Yeah.
You can become the Warrior of Darkness. Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers. Reorder today. Available July 2nd.
No.
All that training, all those push-ups, and you die 20 seconds into the game.
Thought we said we were gonna be more positive about this.
Okay, that's weird. I mean, 20 seconds in the game, you're still in cutscenes. Tom Holland, what are you doing? Anyways, so, Shadowbringers. It is the latest expansion for Final Fantasy XIV. Of course, directed and produced by Naoki Yoshida. The main scenario was written by Natsuko Ishikawa, who did just a bang-up job, amazing work. She was best known for doing a lot of the Dark Knight storylines, and it's just some of the best side story quests in the game, and they were like, you know what, we probably should make you write the story, and they were right. Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers is probably apparently the best rated Final Fantasy game in like 13 years, y'all. This is a good one. And of course, our composer and sound design master, the crazy burnt cinnamon roll that is Masayoshi Soken. So, when we last left our heroes before Shadowbringers, we finally freed Al Amigo, and we found Heian and rescued his folks, and everything was great, except that the Empire of Garlemald was still being jerks. And next thing we know, a bunch of his buddies in the Scions, for some reason, fell into comas. We weren't sure what was going on until we were isekai'd into the first. That's right, I can't believe my MMO character got trapped in an entirely different MMO, even though it's really the same MMO, just an alternate dimension, when it got shattered into multiple pieces back in the past. Yes. So, we're in the first, doing first things, and it's very exciting. Now, here are the in-game collector's items, which was the wind-up Fran minion, the Grenai mount, and the revolver gun breaker weapon, which you can't get the physical collectors, but you can always upgrade to it, digitally off the MOG station. And along with Fran, they also introduced 2 new races. We've got the Viera, as well as the Hrothgar, which are both pretty fun, pretty cool. I would love to see male Viera and female Hrothgar, and hopefully we'll get that one day. And they also introduced a couple of new classes, or as I should probably call them, jobs, including this brand new one. Wasn't that exciting? It's the gun tank. The RX-75 gun tank mass production type is the brand new tank job in Final Fantasy XIV. Well, alright, hold on. Alright, so Gunbreaker is the actual job here, and dealing their slashy damage, and is a sort of a more actiony, more DPS-based tank class, or job. They use both terms in this game. You start the class and you end with the job. So yeah, you actually start with level 60. It's no longer quite so tentative. And you do have to have beaten the base game to get there. And you have to have Shadowbringers, and I believe also probably Heaven's Ward, because it's level 60. But you go to Gridania, and you start the class, and it is fun. It is cool, and I've been enjoying it. I know my wife really enjoys it. She's been doing very good as a Gunbreaker, and it is cool. She also loves playing this class. That's right, Dancer. It's a ranged DPS, similar to Bard and Machinist, and in fact now composes sort of the triumvirate of the ranged DPS classes, where Dancer is actually a much more buff-based class, job, versus Bard, which is somewhat buffy now, but partially DPS, or Machinist, which is now pretty much all DPS and very little buff, but you choose a dance partner of a dancer, and you do actual dances, you have sweet chakrams. It's a cool stuff. It starts in Limsa Mensa, same thing, starts at level 60, and it is pretty cool. So, with a new expansion, of course, we've got different places. We've got, for example, the CRYSTARIUM, one of the new big hub towns that you have in Final Fantasy XIV. It's built at the base of the Crystal Tower on the first, which is interesting. Why is the Crystal Tower there? You find out pretty quickly why the Crystal Tower is there. It's not really much of a spoiler, really. So this is also based off a Rapture tech demo that they had in 2005, which was a high-tech look at what Square Enix thought their MMO was going to look at the time. And I suppose Yoshida was like, you know what? We should have this in our game because we are the high-tech, new, sweet MMO from Square Enix. So we should have the look as well. And of course, that's not the only hub town. There's EULMORE. It takes place in the location that's pretty much Limsa Lumensa. Now, this is very much a the haves and the have-nots in a very disparate situation where they know the oncoming flood of light is coming to destroy them all. So the haves are partying it up like it's 1999, whereas the dregs live in their dregs and their squalor. This is also where, once you have beaten the expansion, you go to upgrade all your latest gear and loots. This is where you'll go. You'll go to EULMORE. So, of course, we also have ARAENG, or as my friends like to go, ARAENG. It's a desert, sort of the Thanalan area. Of course, there's also Lakeland, which is sort of the area of Kurthus that we were in before it got turned into a wasteland with all the pretty trees that are now pink. And, of course, the RAKTIKA GREATWOOD, because, well, Yoshida loves himself some Final Fantasy XII, as should we all. EULMORE, which is also looks to me like Kurthus, only, and there's the fairy castle, although where Ishgard would be. Only everything is now bright and cheerful, and with really, really, really tricky fairies versus elves. But hey, also we got Calusa, which is sort of the Limsa Lumensa type area. And there's other places that we can go, but we also have new beastmen and primals like Titania, and the Nomo and Pixies, and dwarves, which are actually going to be introduced as a beast tribe in the next upcoming patch. But if you're a Lalafell, you can hang out with the dwarves and go chill with them in their homes. Fun fact, my wife, who plays as, well, she is a Lalafell now, but she was playing as Viera with the expansion hit, and she tried to teleport to me while I was in the house, and it said, well, you can't come in here. We must send you to a place more befitting of your station, and just send her to the nearest Aetheryte. So, if you want to be a Lalafell, you can hang out with dwarves in dwarf houses, because Lalafells are the best. Of course, there are dungeons. They had actually 9 dungeons at the end of the game initially for the expansion. There are, of course, more dungeons now, and it was more than what Shadowbringers and Stormblood got. Heavensward and Stormblood got. So it was cool. We also got some Nomo here in the screenshot because they're cool little guys. Although it's kind of funny, they actually live in EULMORE and not the Greatwood. But hey, so you like those 24-man raids? Do you like the Nearest games? Well, guess what? Final Fantasy XIV's got you covered. In fact, they even got the folks who made Nier Automata like Yusuke Saito and Yoko Taro to help design this raid, and is in effect the canonical sequel to Nier Automata. So if you want to know what happened at the end, apparently you play Final Fantasy XIV. One day I'll play this Nier game and I'll know what's actually happening. Yes. Of course, we also have the 8-man person raid, or female, or whatever people you happen to be. 8-person raid, Eden, based off the summon in Final Fantasy VIII. And they even got Tetsuya Norma to design the characters and some of the boss designs. Here is Gaia, who is the very obviously Nomura character designed, that she gets to have sort of a starring role in this series, bringing new life and new mounts to the game. So they've done a lot of different things with Shadowbringers. Like, they completely redesigned a little bit, I'll say, so not really completely, but a little bit designed the fate system, really the reward system. You also get gemstones that you can use to unlock things like your riding maps to get better mount speeds on land. And you also various other materials that you can also grab from doing fates. And as you do more fates, you unlock more and more access to more and more things, which is pretty cool. All side quests can be taken at level 70, so you get experience at a pretty decent rate in the expansion, so you really don't need to have to do all the side quests if you don't want to. So you can leave them for other jobs that you may want to level. And all the side quests scale, very similar to how they do they've been doing the Beast Tribes for a while. And it's pretty cool. So instead of doing the usual class or job quests that they had done in the past, instead they did what they called role quests, where they did them for physical DPS, magical DPS, tank, and healer. And you get a much more involved storyline based off some things that happened in the past of the first. And then you also do get a quest at level 80 for each job to sort of give you a little nice end cap before we ever eventually get to whatever next expansion is next. They also included all sorts of different crafting and gathering quests. Is a very similar thing, where instead of doing one for each gathering or crafting job, there's now more of a more generalized quest line, but it's more stuff to learn about the first in the world. And you go to the crystalline mean and the CRYSTARIUM. Also, things that we've now gotten in Final Fantasy XIV is we finally have a Winamp screen. I mean, Winamp skin. I mean the light skin. So if you don't want to just have your look of your menus be dark, they can now be light. Because we're in the first and everything is light based and you want to bring the darkness. So if you really want to immerse yourself into this world, you of course want to switch to the light skin. They've also expanded cross-world link shells to 8 channels. They you now have percentages that you can set. They can actually see like the 0 point whatever. So you now can really get granular when you're doing those savages, and and you wipe it just like the point now like 2 or 3%, and you're like, why didn't we do it? Why did we have those deaths? Not that I wasn't just doing that last night. Anyways, you would now be able to place furnishings as a preview. You can look at all the things that are there. You can sort of move it around, sort of see what it look like before you craft it or buy it off the market board. It is very, very useful. Another thing is they have changed up is this thing called the charge action system, which essentially there are abilities that either will build up over time or you'll do an action to create one. Like, for example, I mean summoner. So whenever I do an Eggy action, it gives me a charge of Ruin 4, and I can save up to 4 charges, and they don't go away until I use the charge. And then if I want another charge of Ruin 4, I'll have to use another Eggy action. Of course, that's on its own timer. So it has sort of changed up how you plan for things and use your abilities, and it's brought a brand new wrinkle to the combat system that is pretty fun. Something that has been very useful is in the casting interruption system, where now it kind of, the silence effects is incorporated to the new system, and you now have this cool little ability here that you now sort of see visually when something can be interrupted. And that is very useful, especially with some of the more intense, complicated battles. So they have been having issues trying to figure out what in the world to do with the role actions. Before, it was the various jobs that you leveled up would indicate what abilities you could pick from. And they realized that everyone sort of picked the same abilities over and over again. So now they've changed things. Like, for example, pretty much you no longer have to do jobs leveled up to unlock other jobs. No, pretty much you can level whatever job at any time. Everything is now separated out. So all the role actions are now all set, and everyone gets all of them, because the tanks get all the tanky actions, their healers get their healer actions, and their DPS get their DPS-y actions. Also, TP, no more TP. No TP for you. Only MP and abilities. And they've changed the piety attribute to take this into effect. And everything's been adjusted so it all still makes sense, even though there is no more TP, only MP. They've changed how the main attributes and materia work. Now, materia is only used for substats, except for piety. And they have sort of completely reconfigured how it all works, so it makes sense. Savage and token gear now have 2 materia slots, and it all works pretty well. For Summoner, this was a very big change for me. The pet system has been completely changed, where they are no longer targetable things. They exist. You now have to use the pet actions as your own actions, but they have also been incorporated into my rotation, and it all makes sense. And it took a couple patches for them to really figure it out, but we're in a pretty good place now, so awesome. Now, our damage limit's been increased to all the 9s in the world that you could want, because they know that damage is only going to go up, it ain't going to go down. They've changed how the limit gauge fills, and they also now show the HP of a barrier once you have one for shields, which is very nice to see. No more guessing. And yeah, so they've also changed how job synergy works, where they were really trying to do things where they wanted certain jobs to sort of be able to work extra well with other jobs, but it caused issues where people would only want certain jobs in raiding or looking in Party Finder. So they kind of rebalanced everything to try and make things more even. So that way, while there is still some job synergy in place, it's not nearly as required. So you don't have to worry about people not wanting you around. So let's look at some of the jobs that you have in Final Fantasy XIV. Of course, there is Warrior, where you can do all the fell cleaves still in the world. Very fun. I should also point out this is modeled by my wonderful Lalafell wife. She is great and amazing, and she's currently displaying Paladin, who now has a gap closer. And what else do you need in life? Except darkness. That's right, Dark Knight is still there, been heavily revamped. They're sort of the star of this expansion. And one of my raid tanks, he mained Warrior throughout Stormblood because he didn't feel Dark Knight was quite cutting it. But now he gets to Blackest Night with aplomb, and he's really enjoying his life right now, edging the lords. Of course, as mentioned earlier, Gunbreaker is super fun, super cool. It's all slashy //. versus Stabby Stab Jump Stab like Dragoon. Dragoon is there, our favorite floor tank, making sure everything looks nice, shiny, and clean with, their awesome dragon skills. Monk is there. They've got Kamehamehas. They can now look like Goku, even more so. Samurai is around. They're cool. They also got the slashy //. Still the DPS kings, masters of the blade. Much like Ninja, where I know that in the previous expansion, Stormblood, our Ninja in our raid group, he went to Black Mage because he doesn't feel Ninja was quite cutting it. Well, Ninja sure is cutting it now, and I'm constantly fighting with him for reaching those top DPS slots. And he gives me a run for my money every time, but that's fine. I also get Trick Attack, and it's very useful. Of course, Bard. Like I said, it's one of the ranged DPS classes. It sort of lives in the middle. It's a little bit more buffy than Dancer, but not as damage dealing as Machinist, who is the more, I guess, called selfish class, where DPS is all that really matters. Not very heavily buff based, where that's what Dancer is there for. Dancer is the buff based DPS for ranged class, where you pick out a dance partner, and the dance partner will influence what buffs that you get, and you also give the dance partner a buff, but they also get party buffs at the same time, and it is proven invaluable for us. Of course, the kings of healing, feeding the blood lilies, the white mage. If you want healing, if you want regens, if you want that pure unadulterated whiteness and light, keeping your parties healed, you've got it. It's called white mage. But maybe you want more in the way of shields, in which case you want scholar, trusting that fairy do that healing so that you can be doing that DPSing. I mean shielding. Yes. Scholar is healing, not DPS. Scholar is healing, not DPS. But what if you want a regen or you want a shield, and you also want to give buffs to your party? Of course, Astrologian. They see in the heart of the cards what your future holds, which is a damage buff and hopefully healing. And then, of course, Black Mage, as my best friend would go, the boom doku 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 class, where you get all the big explosions, all the big fire and ice spells, and a good bit of thunder damage as well. Or, my personal preference, Summoner. Dot all the things. Have an awesome pet, in my case a carbuncle. Of course a carbuncle. Where you cast all the dots, you do your things, you devote to give your party a nice little buff, and you just rock it. It was not very great when the expansion started, but they've sort of figured things out. The class is way more fun to play than when we started. I've always played Summoner in this game. It was one of the reasons why I played this game, was because I could be a Summoner. And this game, this expansion is really, it's fun. I could never play anything else, despite Red Mage being more fun than I would like to admit. With your emboldening and your white mage and your black mageness, where you cast both kinds of spells and you balance, and then you get to dash in and do your swipey swipe thing, and then you jump back, and when you jump back, you fall off the stage, because we used to call it dragooning, but I feel red mages have now stolen the dragoons jumping around and off things mantle. Of course, there's also Blue Mage, our first ever limited job that was introduced right before Shadowbringers hit. You can now go up to level 60, and you can run around and learn various abilities after getting hit with them by various enemies and monsters throughout the world. And it's a really neat way to go back and experience older content in a new way. And I'm glad that they're still working on Blue Mage. They're still giving you level caps and ability increases, and I'm glad it keeps being its own thing, and I would love to see more limited jobs come around. Now, as in case you haven't noticed, that my wife definitely has leveled everything. What do you get when you level all the battle classes? Well, you get the Amara mount. Look at that. Look at that beautiful, beautiful creature right there. They're the first equivalent of the Chocobo. One day, I will never get this mount. That requires leveling other jobs. I can't. It's a lot of. I mean, it's not as bad now. You've got a beast tribe that really helps you level. Anyways, so what else can we do in this game? We have the restoration of the Holy See of Ishgard, where you can do things to help. They've got a new realm, a new area that you can go in and turn stuff in, and we're building up a whole new section, and we might even see housing to come from it. That's what we're all hoping for anyways, and I'm pretty sure that's what we're going to get. They've also introduced a concept, or they talked about the concept of farms. Now, I don't know if we're actually going to get that in this expansion at this point, because we're kind of deep into it now. But he has mentioned it before a few times, so maybe we'll see it, maybe we're not. We have seen his New Game Plus, which allows you to replay through some of the older content as your current level to experience what you did previously. And they're adding more and more things. And one of the major additions to Shadowbringers are dungeon dates. Okay, they call them trusts, but let's face it, you're picking your favorite NPCs from the Scions, and you're going on little dungeon dates with them. So, that is Shadowbringers. Awesome. Cool. That's been a lot, but what are we doing right now? Well, you can do all sorts of things. Why? We can go hunting for treasure. On heaven, on high? Well, we can always hang out at the beach and use G-pose, and Struggle Races is always there, the gold saucer waiting for you, and also PvP. That's a thing we can do. Yeah! PvP. Or yes, you can ride a lion and play Animal Crossing. Or play Shogi, which is actually a really in-depth way of playing it. Or, go do old Alliance raids, because those are still fun. Or you can die in Shinryu. Experience fireworks. Find a connection to that special someone and get eternally bonded. And then get a sweet 2-seater chocobo. There are all sorts of things you can do in Final Fantasy XIV. Like the current patch that we are on, 5.2, Echoes of a Fallen Star. Why, we have the latest raid tier of Eden's Verse, where we actually get to finally meet Gaia, and we also have a brand new dungeon, the Ananesis Endir, where you can hang out in a place where folks used to exist and is now sort of a weird take on Satasha, which is interesting. Also, the Sorrow of Weralt. I can't pronounce these things. Garleans, what are you doing? Why is Ruby Weapon here? Why do I feel like I'm getting this weird Final Fantasy XIV take on Ava? I don't get it, but it was an awesome fight. And an even more awesome remix of the Ultra Weapon theme done by the Soken's band, the Primals. So, they have all sorts of things you also do. They also introduced the Resistance Weapons, which is the new relics for Shadowbringers, which is pretty cool. And something that you can also do right now, they just introduced it this past week, is the Moogle Treasure Trove, the Hunt for Law, where you can run old content and get rare items like the Mamasheba necklace and some of the mounts. So we actually just covered this in our brand new Final Fantasy XIV podcast, the CARBUNCLE Chronicle. We actually spend about 25 minutes going in depth about all the things that you can do for this. So if you want more of an audio in-depth look at it, please go check that out. But yeah, so you can do various things, and you go talk to the Iterate Moogles in all the major city-states in Limsa and, Ul'dah and Gridania, and you get stuff. So just a quick primer. Of course, you can go to Praetorium and Castra Mirandum and watch all the cutscenes in the world, and you're rewarded with the most tombstones, and also the last Evilise raid for the Orbone Monastery. And you get 7 tombstones out of that, and you also can go to the Lighthouse to get 6, or go Rabanastre or Aurum Vale, everyone's favorite dungeon, or go do some PvP. Go to Hidden Gorge and get yourself some 5 tombstones of irregular law. And then maybe you just want to go to Cutter's Cry and get yourself 4. Go to Stone Vigil or Dimsel Darkhold or the Sunkel Thibodeau Corn. Like I said, if you want to hear more about it, we cover it all in the Carbuncle Chronicle issue 2, out now. Alright, so that's what we're doing right now. We're doing patch 5.2, and we're doing the hunt for irregular tombstones of law. So, what's coming up next? Well, eventually, we are going to get patch 5.3 Reflections in Crystal. Now, they were planning for it, I think, to be in May/June. Maybe it'll be in June. Maybe it'll be July. Unfortunately, Square Enix and Yoshi P's team, they are also dealing with the unfortunate realities of COVID-19. And now they're all having to work from home. And that has proven onerous because their whole development system was really designed to take place at their headquarters, not at home. But they're working on it. There'll only be a few weeks delay, they're hoping. So I guess we shall see. But what are we doing? Well, we are also going to have the conclusion to the Shadowbringer story. Now, that doesn't mean this game's over or anything. What they always do is, halfway through the life cycle of these patches, they post expansion patches. They bring a conclusion to the expansion storyline so they can then start continuing the storyline of 14 and lay the seeds that will then bloom into the next expansion. So, that's what's going to happen here. They're also going to now require that the Crystal Tower has to be completed with the main scenario quest in A Realm Reborn. Because, well, if you're playing Shadowbringers, you know how important the Crystal Tower series really is. And in previous Iterate Moogle series where you do stuff, they were really, really pushing the Crystal Tower series because they wanted everyone to beat it. So that way Shadowbringers made sense. So now they're just going to make it required. We've also got a new dungeon they're calling the Hero's Gauntlet, which is going to be awesome. I thought it was first EULMORE, but it also looks like maybe it takes place in Lakeland. So I guess we're just going to have to see what's going on here. So they're also introducing a whole new beast tribe, which is the dwarves, and it's going to be crafting. Now, the Holy See of Ishgard, the restoration stuff, has been an excellent way to level crafters and to keep doing crafters, so it's kind of crazy. We've also Kirin, which are the gathering beast tribe, and now so we have a fighting beast tribe, a gathering beast tribe, and a crafting beast tribe. But also, Ishgard also serves pretty well for crafting. So, man, if you've never crafted before, now is an excellent time to get into it. Pardon me. I'm doing a lot of talking in this panel. You have a lot of crafting that you can get done now. My goodness. So they're also, while we're talking about crafting, they are doing lots of updates to crafting in this upcoming patch, where you'll be able to do things like trial synthesis, where you can practice a recipe without having the materials. You can also will be able to start researching or do a search for what recipes can you do with the inventory that you have on hand, which is pretty cool. They're also including a new turn-in client, which gives you various bonuses for scripts and things. They're also updating the delivery craft for scripts and whatnot so that there's now a fixed lineup. So you're not always trying to be like, all right, I have all the materials for this one. Hopefully that's what I have to come up so I can do my turn-ins. Wait, no, that's not what I have for. Guess I'll have to wait till the next time there's turn-in. They've changed it up. Well, nevermore. They're doing a fixed lineup so you know exactly what you can get in order to be able to do your turn-ins, which is very nice. There, of course, we've also got the third phase of the Ishgard restoration coming up. And they're also going to be doing updates to the Sky Steel tools, which are the equivalent of relics, but now for crafting and gathering. Also, we've got the next thing for the Sorrow of World. So we'll be doing a new instance encounter. It's not going to be a trial, although there is going to be a trial in the new patch, but they were not telling us what that trial is. Apparently, it's a surprise. So that's exciting. They did show this clip, which sort of looks like an Ironworks looking Ultima weapon, which is interesting. Wonder if we're going to have some giant robot battles. That's what I'm hoping for. Of course, we've also got the next thing in the the near set of raids, the Puppets Bunker. So that's our new 24-man raid that we'll have to look forward to for us to cry and watch all our characters get to leave it off the server, because if Yoko Taro wants it, Yoko Taro gets it. Of course, they are doing updates to the Resistance weapons quests. They're also doing a large-scale instance, not dissimilar from Eureka, called the Bosjin Southern Front. Now, they have mentioned that that will be optional. You will not have to go through the Bosjin Southern Front to upgrade your stuff like you had to Eureka. There is going to be another path to update your Resistance weapons. So that's interesting that they're kind of trying to play it both ways. And I'm curious to see what happens. Also, if you haven't done the Resistance weapon quest yet, and you're playing Shadowbringers and you're level 80, go do them. It is an awesome instance that they put you through the cool new trial. And it might be one of the favorite things, like visually, they've ever done. It's a super cool area. And I'm kind of sad that I can't play through it again. Maybe it's one of the things where I think if they include it in New Game Plus, I am totally going back and trying it again, because it was a super cool thing. So they're also doing stuff where they're streamlining Realm Reborn, especially those main scenario quests at the end. You see, before Heavensward, for the first expansion, they were planning for it, but there was a pretty long period between Realm Reborn and the first expansion, Heavensward, and so they kept feeding us quests to give us stuff to do, and when you were doing it piecemeal as it was coming, it was fine, because it was something new. But now that it's been around for a while, you realize they put a lot of filler into there. So now they're streamlining it. They're taking a lot of that filter out. So that's nice. And again, of course, requiring the Crystal Tower says. They're also increasing the experience, so that way you can just sort of fly right on through to get right into Heavensward, into that good stuff. And furthermore, once you beat Realm Reborn stuff, you'll be able to fly. We're going to be able to fly, y'all, in ARR places. Oh my goodness. This is the most exciting thing ever. Ever since I had the ability to fly in Heavensward, all I could think about was being able to fly in the ARR zones, and they're finally making it happen. Oh man. So, another new thing that they're doing is a new thing called Unreal Trials and the Faux Hollows. So, this is a new trial difficulty and a new minigame. So what they're doing is they're taking older extremes, like for example, the first one we're doing is Shiva, and they're bringing her up to level 80. So that way, now her abilities and everything will make sense at the level we are at now. And if we beat her, we also get tokens to be able to chance to play the Fox Hollow minigame once per week, which will give us something, I suppose. I guess we'll find out in the next live letter. So, if you want, yet again, another deep dive into what the live letter contained, check out our Final Fantasy XIV podcast, The CARBUNCLE Chronicle, once again. We actually take about an hour to cover everything the live letter had and our thoughts, and me being really, really excited about flying in the ARR zones. I'm really, really excited for that. So please, if you like to be yammering about Final Fantasy XIV for almost an hour now, let's check out the podcast. Again, you can find it at theawesomecast.com, osmcst.com, or give me a follow on Twitter at It's Basil Time. Let me know if you enjoyed the panel. Let me know if you're enjoying MomoConline. This is a whole new, exciting thing. And we just got started. And there's a whole weekend of this. And I'm really curious to see what events happen. Join the MomoCon Discord. See what's going on. Oh, man. So, like I mentioned, Carbuncle Chronicle, your podcast for everything awesome in Final Fantasy XIV. Again, I'm part of the Odin Spear free company. And once again, thank y'all so much for listening to me yammer on about Final Fantasy XIV, and I hope you enjoy this virtual convention experience. We'll see you later. Have a good one.